During the evening hours of March 4th, 2025, the Wall Street Journal announced that Disney was laying off 6% of staff, and at that time, it was revealed that those reductions would namely affect its ABC News network division, including its polling analysis service, 538. And while it was mentioned that the Disney Entertainment Networks division would also suffer cuts, it was unclear at the time about who exactly would be affected. Let's talk about our analysis, primarily based on what we've been able to uncover in our investigation into these 200 layoffs at the Walt Disney Company, here on That Park Place.
So we're going to talk about the Disney layoffs here. So we reported on this earlier, the Disney layoffs that were scheduled to occur. It was framed in a very specific way. 6% of staff at ABC News and Disney Entertainment Networks and also axing the 538 political polling site. So I was trying very hard to run the numbers on this to the best of my ability. And I also remembered some things about what was being said. So there were some things lumped together, like Tiana, the Tiana series that was supposed to be coming for Disney Plus, that had been announced in 2020, and we still hadn't seen any of that. Going through the numbers here, we hear about 200 people being laid off, and that 6% figure, I think that 6% figure is meant to look like it's a low number. 15 people from 538 being let go. Obviously, 538 very famously was Nate Silver's polling instance. I wish I could show you the picture of Nate Silver on the night that Donald Trump got elected. He was not having a good time, and it was very visible. It looked like he was literally pulling his hair out and forgot to comb it back down when he was watching. Why he failed so miserably at predicting the election, I don't know. He's supposed to be a data guy. Also, after Disney bought 538, they kicked out Rasmussen Reports, which Rasmussen Reports famously the pollster that got everything correct throughout the election, the whole election process, predicting which states would do what. Anyhow, outside of that doesn't account for about 185 people. So what were you saying, Vash?
I was going to say that Nate Silver actually departed from 538 because I didn't extend his contract. That was back in 2023. So technically he wasn't even part of his own polling outfit very recently, but still didn't get the election right. And 538 was notoriously wrong. And like you said, they were effectively gatekeeping many polling firms to exclude people like Rasmussen and People's Pundit, which was very unfortunate because if you look at their polling, they were almost spot on. So I think there was definitely perhaps an agenda there with that polling. Sorry, go ahead.
So Vancouver Sun, however, in all this, because again, remember the Tiana series going away, that was the lead. And then there was this 6% story. I believe they're linked. Vancouver Sun reports that Disney Vancouver will have approximately 300 staff left on file. On file. That's the wrong word for it, but whatever. After the layoffs. Now, because I've been following this for a while, and some of this is based off the great reporting from Film Thread over there, I'm going to continue to move here. This is Vancouver Sun yesterday morning. Sources confirmed the cuts were related to Disney's decision to shift away from long-form content and instead focus on one theatrical feature a year plus short-form content. Well, if we go over here, this is a tweet from Malcolm Pierce, who was is the head, I have no reason to believe he's not still the head of the Vancouver studio here, on the day that Moana 2 was announced on an earnings call. We see that he says, "Today, we stand proud with a team of 400 plus artists, engineers, and technicians embarking on our first theatrical release. The announcement of Moana 2 hit me harder today than expected." Malcolm Pierce here is saying there's 400 people. One of the reasons this really sticks out is because Burbank was unaware that there were 400 people working at the Vancouver studio. It was also Disney outsourcing one of their movies for the first time in a long time. Technical outsourcing, because it's going to Canada. I mean, they still speak the language over there, which is probably why they're not doing a Vancouver premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs up there. So last time I checked, the difference between 400 and 300 is about 100 people. So I'm wondering if a large portion of the layoffs are actually very specifically related to reducing staff at this studio. Now, Vash, has this studio produced anything that Disney claims to have made money off of?
Well, I that's the thing, right? So Moana 2 achieved over $1 billion at the box office. I remember there were some very late in the game, big, huge changes that were actually performed for that film in order to get it ready from a Disney Plus series into theatrical right there. So it's we're unsure about what the production costs attached to that specific film are going to be, and we don't really know how much that film had to achieve at the box office in order to make its money back and maybe even into the profit. So that's, I think, an open question. Remember, too, they also worked perhaps 5 years on that Tiana Disney Plus series. We know that Vancouver may have been assigned to that project as they were assigned many projects that were slated for Disney Plus. So that's an interesting idea there. Who knows how much money they spent on that project before they scrapped it? 5 years. That's quite a bit of time right there. It's very interesting stuff going on in the Vancouver studio. Here's the other thing, Jonas. What will the tariffs have in terms of an effect on this Vancouver studio? Is it even profitable as much as maybe the Disney company was intending to produce films out there? I think that's an open question as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I don't know if they're getting tax breaks for moving any of this to Canada at this point. I don't know how tariffs end up affecting intellectual property in this way, and I don't think the pass through back and forth between Burbank and Vancouver, I think that there would be different rules regarding that. Oh man, to start to get into intellectual property interaction between like the United States and EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Asia. I don't know that we have the time to really get into that today, but I don't know if the tariffs would affect this situation. I think in this particular instance, it's a bunch of people work very hard on a film. And if it's true that these layoffs are getting rid of 100 people. Now, once a big production ends like this, I know that they do reduce staff on some level, and there's contracts that would expire when the film comes out. So I'm not saying that all of this would be layoffs, and there's probably some reasonable explanation here, but 100 people when they're trying to be like, oh, there's 15 people from 538 that we're getting rid of. By the way, 538 is not accurate. That's probably why we're getting rid of it. They did stamp that ABC logo on it pretty strong there when they did that.
I find it very interesting how the tariffs might be set at 25% for Canada, and yet they reduced 25% of staff. Obviously, you're right. After a big production, they always scale back. That's just kind of a natural thing that happens. And that happens both at the studios and also too at WDI and so forth. After a big project, they always scale down and then scale back up again as production gets going once again on the next project. It's fascinating how this is all kind of happening around the same time. And I do have my doubts that it's entirely unrelated to each other, but who knows?
Yeah, same here. But of course, you guys just stay tuned. We'll be tracking it as much as we can. So I'm gonna do a shifting move here. Kanan Barnes for 5. I don't know if this is the right place to say this, but Trump has delayed the tariffs on Mexico until April 2nd. By the way, tariffs do not apply to film productions. That's good.
Good enough.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.